But you go through to what happened this week. Monday morning, we get the announcement OpenAI and AMD are going to do this uh, acquisition financing deal. That announcement sends the stock up 38% on the open. You go through Matt Levine's chat, you get into what is going on here. Um, and you get into the details. OpenAI wants to buy 6 gigawatts worth of AMD's chips. That'll be $78 billion. How do you want to pay? OpenAI says, I don't know, let's do this in stock. You give me some AMD stock, market will pump on the news. Essentially, you're going to get these AMD chips for free. Everybody kind
Everybody's
of washes
happy
their
there.
hands
Yeah.
over the things and leaves happy. What does this result in, though? This is like a trick where you're using to make this in like a Star Wars analogy or like the sword and the stone, where you're getting into wizardry, right? You're using a financial trick. You tap into it once, like, oh wow, we got great results out of that. Like the more you go to the well, you're going to come to realize this thing wasn't free. And I'll go through like what is the cost. Every time you do this, what you're actually doing is drawing the resources out of the real economy in exchange for overpriced equity. And if you keep running this thing to its conclusion, it ends badly. And I'll go through a financing scheme, the most notable in history, where this strategy is used. But basically, I mean, the way I understand OpenAI, I don't know how deeply, the research goes down. Who owns this thing? How related with the government and existing financial system? I mean that like bank capital. How integrated is it? It's a private company. It's not exchange traded, but it's by name an AI model development vehicle trying to bring in this new wave of technology for the West, specifically America's horse in the race. But really, what it's starting to look more and more like is a capital financing scheme, right? So in its version of this process, these intra-party deals, bespoke deals with, say, Oracle or Nvidia, et cetera, it's operating in the private capacity. It doesn't look public private, or it's not proven yet that it's public private. But then you get into other deals that we're seeing where the US government, the Department of Defense, Department of the Treasury are taking stakes in specific entities, MP Materials, Intel. We can just go on Trilogy Metals this week. I'll go through that chart. I think I have it coming up. You're starting to see the Treasury using this same scheme, equity financing, to obtain what it wants. What is the net result of that? It moves stock price up. How does Mr. Market respond? He's going to start trying to front run whatever the Treasury or the private financing vehicles, OpenAIs, et cetera, are going to utilize this technique on next. They're going to start buying, marking public exchanges up. The stock market goes up. But at the end of the day, it's all paper, it's financial, right? Like the way this isn't a bubble is if these entities, whether it's MP Materials getting the rare earths out of the ground, Intel, shipping semiconductors, and feeding that production into the U.S. economy's semiconductor consumption as inputs into other goods, or OpenAI, like dupe firms, do software, products and businesses actually start paying OpenAI in cash for those products and services. That's a yes or no. We won't fully understand or realize the answer for probably 5, 10 years. Like this will take time to fully play out. But the more we do this, the more we tap into this, black magic trick, I'll call it that, the more the costs will pile up. And in the extreme, what you get Like we've seen this technique used by Anglo-Dutch and Western governments before in the past in times of war, most pressingly, because this is when you need to do this, right? So the South Sea Company, I won't spend 30 minutes on this. I want to get wrapped within 30 minutes, but this vehicle was literally created as a public-private partnership. Ultimately, its reason for being was to consolidate and reduce the cost of the national debt. Like that was its raison d'etre. That's why it existed. Um, in reality, like the way that it was supposed to generate its profits and why speculators pumped this stock on in London and created a massive speculative bubble. You can research into that deeper if you wish. Plenty of great resources on this speculative wave. Tied up Isaac Newton, kind of bankrupted him
Infamously, yeah.
um, infamously. So that's the picture of the stock market kind of euphoria and speculation on the right as this whole thing was forming, right? And that's literally the process we're going through now, like 2025, these deals. This can take a long time to play out. But the way that this institution or this company was supposed to actually generate its profits was trading in the South Seas and lands and waters that the Spanish Empire occupied and possessed. So it had little to no probability of actually generating any profit, right? Um, so this monopoly that the king granted it in its charter was essentially worthless, but in a speculation, in a frenzy, the public doesn't care until the checks come
They
due.
just want to try to hop in and
Um,
ride the wave.
but yeah, but eventually, what this company started dealing in was operating and trading of government debt. I think in the extreme, we look at the situation the U.S. Public purse finds itself in right now. Over time, don't be surprised if these vehicles, these entities, whether it's OpenAI and the tech bubble, the AI example, or the MP materials with rare earths, or Intel, or any other where you see these financing schemes showing up, where there's no cash component of the transactions, it's all stock based. Don't be surprised if in 5 to 10 years these turn into some vehicles for kind of warehousing the public debt, because that's ultimately what this is all about. So we'll go into the last one. There was another example this week. OpenAI or AMD wasn't even the hottest stock of the week in terms of percentage gains. It was this Trilogy Metals. I think it's actually Canadian listed. But yeah, their stock shot up like 3x, $2 to $6.62, over like in a matter of days. Um, so yeah, this is what's going on. It doesn't mean 2001, the bubble collapse is right around the corner, or the 1720 South Sea bubble collapse is right around the corner. You generally don't know where you are within a bubble exactly, but they end when the last sucker walks by. In the P.T. Barnum phrase, there's a sucker born every minute. He just happened to be walking by my circus, right? It's kind of that when you run out of capital to come in and keep financing these things, that's when they die. So you either have to run out of funders to buy this, and right now I don't see any sign that's going to stop. If that were the case, you wouldn't see these charts like these spikes. AMD up 38%, Trilogy Metals up 300% on the announcement. Once we start seeing these and those results start to not generate the pop, that's your signal that we're running into the end of the distribution phase, and we're getting ready for a drawdown potentially. We also don't know, however, will this AI technology actually deliver the product revenue, the new market growth, um, the the economic windfall that it's kind of pitched to deliver and hyped to deliver. So we'll see how this plays out. But using history as a guide in my framework, this is what's going on, and that doesn't mean get out of equities. That doesn't mean sell, because you never know how long. You don't know when the end of the bubble is. What you don't want to do is buy high, sell low. In that Newton example, right? He bought in early, sold at a nice profit, and the chart just runs away from him. He gets the FOMO, he gets greedy, sees his neighbors making money in this speculative wave, and he rebuys back in at the top. And Newton, despite being one of the most advanced intellectual minds that humanity's ever produced, just gets sucked into it and financial stupidity and gets ruined. So this is a dangerous game we're playing with capital markets. You only play it when you're forced to. And it's the oldest trick in the Anglo-Dutch book, and we're resorting to it now. Just to understand where we actually might be in this process. So you look at the public debt situation, look at the public debt to GDP ratio over the course of history, over the United Kingdom's existence. I think this chart goes back to 1600s, right? You see the South Sea bubble on the chart on the left. It's your first cyclical wave on a march up in the UK's debt situation, increasingly but slowly worsening over the course of over a century. So even if this current thing we're in with AI, this equity financing scheme that we're seeing materialize as a strategy to deal with the government's increasingly worsening debt problems, we still may be very on in this process in the grand scheme, like in the scheme of centuries, which is how these things play out. The UK's debt problem didn't end until it essentially won victory at the Battle of Waterloo, and I think it was 1815, but 1810s-ish, when it finally defeated Napoleon, wrapped that phase up, and then it began to delever. So this thing can go on for a very long time. We're just riding a cycle on top of a cycle, so you never know. But be careful. I guess that's all we can say about this. But just wanted to give that color. I thought Matt Levine actually nailed it with that cheeky little text message chat thread between OpenAI and AMD he wrote up. I think he was much more right on the point than anybody gives him credit for.